Hi everybody, this is Darlene from Darlene Stamps. I'm so glad you found me on YouTube today. Like you, I love to go out on YouTube and look around at crafting videos. Being a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I am particularly interested in videos about card making. And as I've been going through videos this summer, I'm noticing kind of a theme concerning printed paper. And the theme that I'm seeing and hearing about is this. I have so much pretty designer series paper. I love designer series paper. I love the patterns. It's just so beautiful. But what happens is I just hate to start cutting it. The theme that I heard from so many people was, it's too pretty to cut. So what happens from that idea is that I continue to look at my pretty papers, but I don't cut them. And then some new pretty papers come out, and so I buy them. And before you know it, I have quite the stash of pretty paper, but none has been cut. And then I even hear people talking about doing this for quite some time, and pretty soon they say they're borderline hoarding pretty paper. Well, I looked at my stash and I'm guilty too. I have tons of pretty paper that I just hate to cut into. What happens when you cut into paper a lot of times is you have little scraps left over. Some of them perhaps big enough to use, but some of them not. And then you have a bunch of little scraps and now you feel sad because you have all these little scraps and you haven't really done anything with them. Well, today I decided to do a lesson that will allow you to use 2 full sheets of 12 by 12 printed paper to make a 3D project with absolutely no waste. That's right, not one piece of scrap will be left over. Now, full disclosure, the papers that I'm going to be showing you today are retired papers. They are currently not available. I went into my stash just like I'm encouraging you to go into your stash and look at your papers. Let me show you the project for today. It is a 12, you use 2 12 by 12 sheets of paper to make a gift bag. The gift bag measures 6 by 7.5. It has a decorative flap on the top. You can do handles if you want. And of course, you can jazz it up with tissue paper or perhaps paper shreds. Very usable size. And remember, there will be no scraps. So let's get started. First thing you need to do is to go to your stash, just like I did. I want you to, when you go to your stash, I want you to look at your stash, your papers, with a certain kind of perspective. If I look at this pattern of paper, no matter which way I turn it, there's not an upside down, okay? It's an all-over pattern. It's non-directional. This is a perfect kind of pattern for this project because there's no right or wrong. There's no up or down to it. And if I look at the flip side, our 12 by 12 paper, which we call DSP for short, always has a print on the back as well. This print is overall, no upside down or wrong way. And so no matter which side I would use for my bag, my flap would be perfectly fine. This is a great kind of a pattern paper to use for this project. Let's look at another one. Again, a floral. I loved this pattern because it's very delicate in its design. I love the colors. And again, if I look at the directions of the flowers, they are cattywampus, if you will, right? Some are going this way, some are going that way. So there's really not a right or a wrong to this front of this paper either. Now, again, thinking about that flap, If I would use my paper in this direction and I do my flap will be a horizontal direction. If I used my paper this way, my flap would be a vertical direction, okay? So it's really not a right or a wrong with this particular paper. It's really a preference, how you would orient your paper. But again, nothing would be upside down. The third paper is a little different. This one has definite direction. All of the flower stems are going up, the floral pieces, the petals are all going up. Right? So this is a definite directional paper. So when I would score my paper, I would need to make sure that my flap is going to be in this direction. And in this case, the back of the paper is totally doable for the flap, not upside down. So it works great. All right? So when you go to your stash, make sure you check out the paper with those things in mind. Now, once you get your 2 sheets chosen, the next thing you need to do is you need to do some scoring. In order to do our scoring, I'm going to use our Stampin' Up! Scoreboard. This can be found on page 155 in the catalog. I want to show you some features on the scoreboard. Number 1, it has a large 12 by 12 platform, so our designer series paper is going to fit perfectly right up snug in the corner. It also comes with a built-in stylus. Let me hold it up a little bit closer. Here's the stylus. It has its own little nest. It snaps in so you're not going to lose it. It also comes with 3 markers with a ruler along the top, and here you can snap in your markers on your measurements. This is great if you're gonna, let's say you're gonna spend an afternoon, you're going through your stash, you're going to make a bunch of bags. All you need to do is to set up your scoring marks and you're ready to go. You don't have to think about it every time you're going to score. Also at the top is a kind of a well, if you will, and that's where your little markers stay when you're not using them, and then it snaps shut. Okay, so that is our scoreboard. Now let's look at our template. I made the template marks on a regular piece of cardstock so that it's easily seen. Again, 2 sheets, 12 by 12, you're going to score them exactly the same. Now the first thing you're going to determine is where are you going to put that flap on your paper. That will be your 1.5 inch score. So whichever direction that's going to be, you're going to score that at 1.5. The other 3 sides are all scored at 3 inches. So it would be 3, 3, and 3 all the way around. You do that the same on both sides of your box, of your bag, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's do that with my paper. Here is the paper I've chosen. Now this one I felt did have a bit of a direction to it. Looking at the centers of the flowers, I felt if I did it this way plus the leaves, they would be going upside down. So I did do this with a directional thing in mind. Okay, so my flap is going to be up here. So I'm going to do that 1.5 inch score first. Now let me talk to you about the scoring tool. You'll notice that it has 2 different size balls on it. The larger ball is to use on designer series paper. Our designer series paper is a little lighter weight, and this will prevent you from tearing the paper. If you're doing regular cardstock, you would use the smaller ballpoint. Okay? I want to make sure my paper is snug in the corner. I'm going to find my groove and I'm going to come down following the groove 1.5 inches, and my first score is done. Now the other 3 sides, as I said, are all on 3s. Your pressure should be firm but not too hard because, again, the paper is a lighter weight and you don't want to rip it. Always make sure you're snug in the corner and up against the top. Okay, there are my score lines. Now we want to reinforce those a little bit. So again, I'm going to find my top. Now, sometimes you can see your score lines better on the back of the paper, okay? I'm going to fold over on that top score line. I'm going to use my bone folder and do some light pressure. You don't want to put hard pressure, and you don't want to go back and forth, because you can rip this paper, okay? And then I'm going to carefully fold on the sides. Again, making sure that edges are meeting up. And then on the bottom. Okay, so now my scoring is done. All right, now we're going to start to do our adhering. I would suggest 2 adhesives. One of these will work. Either one of these will work fine. These, along with our Stampin' Seal Plus, are the strongest adhesives that we have. Our multi-liquid glue is really good. It has a very strong bond, and it lasts. Your bond will last. Your bag will not be falling apart. With the liquid glue, you have a little bit of wiggle room time if you need to realign something, but you do have to apply a little bit of pressure, a longer pressure to it, so that it does bond. It is a liquid. The other one is our Tear and Tape. This is a double-sided adhesive. It is not forgiving. You really need to make sure before you press it together, make sure that everything is lined up. I'm going to be using this today. And it is Tear and Tape. You don't even need scissors, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to adhere our top flap. All I'm going to do here is take my Tear and Tape and literally tear, okay? I don't have to get scissors out every time. I'm just pressing it down, definitely along the edge, and some small pieces near the fold. Okay, so there is my adhesion. Now you want to make sure that you press that down so that all of the pieces are adhered. Now unfortunately I don't have really pretty fingernails, and so it's hard for me to get the backing off of the Tear and Tape sometimes, so I want to show you another tool. Get it here for you to see. This is our Take Your Pick tool. It's also on page 155 in the annual catalog. This is a great tool. Actually, I have a couple of them because I use different parts of them. They come with a sticky end. This has a little bit of tacky goo, if you will, on it. And this is great for picking up sequins, small pieces of paper, particularly if you have a problem with arthritis or with a finger control. Okay, that's one end. And then the other end has a safety cap as well. You get 2 different parts when you buy this tool. This one has our pokey tool, very technical word there, pokey tool. And when you twist it out, it also has a little spatula. This is great for getting self-adhesive sequins and embellishments, getting it underneath so that you get the sticky with it. Or you can put in, here's another stylus tool, again with 2 ends, one large, one small, and that screws in as well. Okay? Take Your Pick tool, really another must-have. So I'm going to use the pokey tool part to help lift up that coating, the release paper, from my Tear and Tape. This is especially helpful. I've seen demonstrators who do have problems with their hands and their fingers. Some of my older customers, the same. It's really hard for them to do this. This pokey tool works great. Okay, so all of my release paper is off now. And now I'm going to make sure that my edges are all lined up. I lightly do it. Everything is good. Now I'm going to give it a good press. And there my flap is secure. Very, very strong. It's not going to come apart. okay? And I already did that with my other piece. So now I have my two identical pieces prepared. Okay, now let's go back to my template. Okay, here is one of my sides that I just did. You'll notice on this one, I scribbled out these bottom two squares, which means we're going to actually cut them all the way out. You do this on just one piece of your paper, all right? So let's bring one piece back in. There it is. And again, the score lines on my pattern are a little bit hard to see, even for me. I know they're hard to see on the camera. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to just carefully cut on the score line. And I'm going to cut one square out. These are 3 by 3 squares. Put that to the side. And the same with the other. Okay? So this is what you have now. That's one side of your box. This is the bottom of the box. Okay, let's put that aside. Let's go to our second piece. Here's my template. Again, this is my top flap. This is my bottom. On this piece, you will notice that we are not cutting anything out. We are going to cut from the edge into that vertical score line. So we're just going to make a slit, if you will, from the outer edge to that vertical score line. And again, I'm going to turn over so I can see what I'm doing. Make sure my flap is at the top. And I'm just going to cut in and stop, turn it around, cut in and stop. Okay? There we have our two pieces. Now we're ready to assemble. At this point, you may want to consider one thing, and that is, what are you going to put in your bag? If you're going to use your bag for lightweight things, you know, lightweight mittens, scarves, something, you know, that's not going to have a lot of weight to it, you can just move on to the next step. If you plan on using your bag to hold maybe some heavier things, perhaps an electronic thing, maybe some baked goods that have a little bit of weight to them, you may want to reinforce the bottom of your bag. And the way you do that is with a piece of lightweight cardboard. This would be like cereal cardboard, cereal box cardboard. This particular piece comes from our designer series paper. It is the backing that comes with the paper. It's a great weight. And so this is cut at 2 3/4 by 5 3/4. I will have all the measurements, cutting measurements in the description. If you're going to reinforce, it would go in the bottom of your bag here. You would glue that in, and then this would go on top. So that would be a reinforcement. Okay, it is optional. All right, we're not going to do that today. We're just going to begin our construction. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put this inside, this bottom, on top of this one, all right? And we're going to glue those together. Again, you can use your liquid glue, you can use pieces of your tear and tape, which is what I'm going to do. The tear and tape is very easy. It's super strong. That's why I really like it for bag and box construction. Again, making sure it's all adhered. You want to make sure when you're doing your bag or a box that you really take time to match up your score lines. This is being stubborn. To match them up before you do any really pressing together. Okay, so now I have my tear and tape release paper gone. I'm going to carefully match these up and then give it a press. Okay, so now I have my bag bottom done. Now next we're going to work on these flaps. We're going to bring them in, and again we're going to put our tear and tape, and I just do some diagonals here, not perfection. Don't need our scissors. There we go. Again, a good press. And you can already see how this is going to work, right? Here are our sides. And sometimes you might need to go back and give a little press with your bone folder. These are tabs, and they're going to come up into the inside of the bag, if you can see that. See that? They're going to go on the inside. All right. So once again, I'm going to get my release paper off quickly. I like to work on one side of the bag at a time. Sometimes if you expose too much of your tear and tape, things glue together that you weren't quite ready to have glued. Okay, so now I'm going to bring that side up, or you can do it the other way. You can bring this over, doesn't really matter, but you just want to, again, take time to match things up. There's one side done. Okay, we're ready for the other side. 3D things are a little hard to film sometime for you to see. Hopefully you can see me taking off the release paper again. All right. Now I'm going to, again, let me see if I can pull this out of the way. Okay, again, the tab is going, make sure it's going on the inside. I want to match up my folds, my edges, and there we go. So you can see that I have one side of the bag is done. Now, the other side is going to come up, and that's going to go on the outside. You see that? It's going to go on the outside. Okay, so this time I'm going to put my tape on these large flaps. I'm going to give them another crease just to make sure they're going to behave. Again, I'm not doing a hard crease. Okay, so again, they're going on the outside of the bag. So I'm going to take my tear and tape. I want to make sure that I get a good piece along the top and the bottom. And then I'll just do a couple of diagonals. And we'll do the same to the other side. It's really doing a mirror image, if you will. What you do to one side, you're doing to the other. And again, just a couple of diagonals. Okay. All right. Once again, a good press. Doing my release paper. I'm getting better at this as I go along in this video. Of course, right as I said that, it's going to be stubborn, right? Okay, there we go. Okay, once again, I'm going to the outside. I'm taking this over to the crease. Don't press anything down until everything is matched up. And then I just put my hands together, really. One on the inside, one on the outside. Give that a good press. Okay? And that leaves one last side. And we'll be done. I hope you're already starting to look at your papers a little bit differently. knowing that they make beautiful bags, really. I mean, if you go to the store and you try to buy beautiful bags, you're spending a lot of money. And here you have something that you already like. You know you like it because you bought it, right? And you can just be using this to make some really stunning bags. And some people really get into the decorating of these bags. Okay, so now I want to make sure that my edges are lined up. And again, I put my one hand inside, one hand outside. And there is my bag. Okay, now on my sample, I did handles. You don't have to do handles, but you can. All I did here was, again, go into my stash of ribbon. Okay, found something that went with the paper. I measured how long I wanted the handles, and then I just punched 2 holes with the paper, just a regular paper punch. And then I knotted. Can you see my knots on the inside to keep the ribbon from pulling through, of course. You can do paper handles, you can use twine, you can use jute, you could use, whatever you have on hand to make your handles. And then, of course, the tissue or the shredded paper. And your project is ready. I hear you. I hear those voices out there saying, wait 1 minute, Darlene. You said 0 waste. Where are those 2 3x3 squares that you cut out of one side of your paper? Okay? I haven't forgotten. Here are 2 3-inch squares that I cut out from another bag. Okay? I want to show you what I decided to do with them. I decided to use my 2 3-inch squares to make cards to go with the bags. This design, what I did was I took one of my squares, I cut it on the diagonal, okay, and those triangles fit perfectly on the front of a standard A2 4¼ by 5½ inch card front. Then I just stamped a few flowers and a thanks on the front. The second square I put on the inside, and I just used it as a mat, 3x3. I cut a 2 3/4 inch white piece for a little greeting or a handwritten note. Used both of my leftover squares. Okay, idea number 2. This time I made a 3-layer front to it. Here is my 3x3 inch square. Under it I did a 3 1/8. You could do a 3 1/4 inch mat, and on top a 2 3/4 inch square, just a white piece again for a little note. And then I just repeated that on the inside, again using both of those leftover squares. Here's a little bit different idea. This time I took one of my 3x3 inch squares and I cut it into 1/4 inch strips, and I just spread them apart. I did not do a good job of gluing them straight, did I? But you get the idea. This is just cut into 1/4 inch, I'm sorry, not squares, but strips. And then I just spread them out and glued them, and then put a little floral on the front. And then on the inside, I used the second square once again for a 3-layer mat. And then my final idea, and this is the one that goes with my bag. I did a 3-layer mat on the front, same as I've done before. But then on the inside, I took my 3x3 inch square, I placed it on the diagonal in a diamond shape, and then just did a little white centerpiece for a card, for a greeting or a note. And that's the one that matches my bag. So as I promised, using 2 12x12 inch pieces of Designer Series paper with absolutely no waste, no scraps. Now let me show you one other option. And again, I will have all of these cutting measurements in the description. Here is a smaller version of the same exact box, okay? The construction is exactly the same. You can see the little flap. I did a paper handle. This dimension is a 3 by about 3 3/4. It is a great size for little favors if you're doing a bridal shower or a baby shower, or perhaps you're doing a holiday dinner of some kind and you want to have just a little favor for everybody. It also is a great size for gift cards if you put a little bit of shredded paper in there. And put a gift card in. It's great. You can even hang them on the tree at Christmas time if you made Christmas ones. And again, here are my 2 squares that I cut out. I just made a tag with one of our tag punches, did a little just for you and a ribbon. And again, this could go on the front or inside. Now the neat thing about this size is that, let's go back to our 12 by 12 piece of paper. For that box, you use 2 6 by 6 pieces of paper. So if you cut your designer series paper 12 by 12 at 6 and 6, from one side you can get a box, and from the other side you can get a box. So you can get 2 boxes out of one 12 by 12 piece of paper. A great use for your designer series paper. I hope you enjoyed our lesson today. I really enjoyed being with you. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to earn your business. You can find me at darlenestamps.stampinup.net. All my contact information is there. You can open an account and shop online 24/7 in your jammies with a cup of coffee, and have it shipped directly to your home. It's very, very easy and fun to do. If you enjoyed my video today, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And I would also appreciate if you have a crafty friend to share this video with them to see if they would like to hit their stash of paper and make some beautiful bags. I would love it if you would subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when I do another video, you'll be notified. If you care to comment, I love to read them, and I would appreciate that from you. As always, I like to leave with a thought for the day. Today's words come from Albert Einstein, who said, "Creativity is contagious. Pass it on." Bye until next time.